There we are. It's Monday at more or less 10 Eastern Daylight Time, and it's the Dyson Dungeons, maybe painting and assembling, and who knows what will happen today as I continue to work on the Apollo model. So, yeah, this thing here, as I said before, this part's done, this part's done, this part's done. This is ready for assembly, and I haven't assembled it, the fairing here where the lem goes, because I don't have a place to put it once it's assembled, because it's too big to stick in a box. And now I'm working on the part that you can't see in this picture, which is the descent stage of the lunar excursion module. It is this thing. And the legs on it are all sorts of spindly little sticks that are mostly not glued in because they're supposed to fold up like that and then unfold like that and then support the whole thing. And I'm not sure that that's going to work, but, give it a try. So you'll see in just a second here, I did some stuff over the weekend, and the parts that used to be white are now shiny. There they are. They got painted gold because the lem, the landing gear, the landing struts, and most of the body was actually wrapped in gold foil. Okay, and I actually have gold foil here that came, gold mylar anyway, that came with the model kit. Here it is. It's all crinkly, just like the real thing. If you looked at pictures, there's a lem that was never used in the Smithsonian, and it's wrapped in this sort of stuff, and it's all crinkly like that. It turns out, because I saw a picture of it this weekend, I looked a picture up of it. Not only is it wrapped around the body here, get on camera, the body here, this is the part, this part is going to get wrapped all the way around. Okay. Somehow, I'm not sure how yet, it'll get done. But the landing struts themselves, these things that are all assembled, those were wrapped in foil, as were the little pads. So the lem, the real lem, this stuff was like wrapped all around it. And I think in this model they're suggesting not doing that because, well, basically because it would just be really hard to do. I mean, you'd have, after this is assembled, I'd need to take pieces of this mylar, okay, and somehow wrap it around these tiny little things. And I know that if someone was really good, really skilled, they'd probably be able to do that without much trouble, and then it would look much more like the real thing. There is a chance, tiny, teeny little chance there, chance that maybe I would try to do that, at least with the long pieces once it's done. But so much of that would just depend on whether these pieces actually go together without breaking or not. So what is happening today is that I am actually going to do some painting. You'll notice that up here in the corner there's some two pieces. These two pieces are not painted gold. That's because the platform and the ladder, the going out part, coming out and going down, were not covered in gold foil. They were just metal, and so they're going to get painted kind of a silver color. Take those out. So those are going to be painted kind of a silver color. And then on this, the top here, this square area, this is where the exhaust nozzle of the rocket engine on the ascent stage sits, and it shoots off. And so this wasn't covered with gold either. So I'm going to paint that a darker silver color. And then on the bottom here, this is where the rocket nozzle for the descent stage sits. And that wasn't covered in gold foil either. So I'm going to paint the inside of this. Look at that. All sorts of marred surface there. I'm going to paint the inside of this a darker silver, just like the top. And I don't know, I might extend that out to the edges here. I'm not sure. We'll see. That's too bad that that happened. I can't do much about that now. Oh yeah, there was a hole here for that. And I taped that over. I should take the tape off before I do any painting on this. See that flaw right there where the paint, I don't know what happened. Maybe it wasn't completely dry when I turned it over to paint the other side. It's one of those things that makes this a B level display model as opposed to an A or an A plus. It's that. And it, that could be fixed. I could sand this down and repaint it. Should do that. But I don't think I'm going to, because unless I do some other gold painting, because otherwise that would put everything off yet another month, even in terms of getting it done. Because if I sand this down and repaint this bit, maybe, I could just do that now. I could just, it's not much. I could just respray that. And it'll dry soon enough that after I paint these and dink around with something else a little bit, that I could probably come back to it. It's unexpected, but I think I really am going to do that. So here we go. I'm going to do a little repair work, and then I'm going to go off screen to do a little bit of spray painting. Very fine sandpaper, just to get rid of that flaw. And then we're going to get extremely fine sandpaper and polish it a little bit. And hopefully it will look okay after I spray paint it again. Okay, well, now it looks really crappy, so I hope after I paint it, it'll look okay. I'll find out. I might have just messed up the whole thing. So, yeah, I'm going to be away for just a few minutes. Get some paint here. Yep, I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Well, that turned into a disaster. I need to fix it. Well, it's hard to describe what happened. It's something totally unexpected. The paint, when I repainted that little spot, it like dissolved the paint underneath it, and it just created this rippling effect. It wasn't smooth, and I don't understand. I don't understand what happened. And you can see here. I ended up getting a paper towel and wiping it off. It dissolved the paint underneath, and just dissolved it and created an alligator effect. And this paint had been thoroughly dry, and I put second coats on some of it earlier and didn't have that problem. So what was going to be happening here today was just like straightforward, some real straightforward touch, detail painting, and it's turning into just a hideous mess. And I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. I may end up having to try to remove the paint from this whole surface. Seriously, I may end up having to try to remove it from all this stuff, without. And wow, this turned out to be not relaxing. Usually, it's just a straightforward thing to put another coat on something. I've done that before with all the other paints, but this, it just alligatored up. Able to sand it. Well, I'm thinking this is what I need to do. What a horrible thing. What a horrible thing happened. An absolutely horrible thing happened. But I sprayed it on, and when it hit, it alligatored up, and I tried to wipe it off, and it just turned out that it just like went ahead and dissolved, just completely dissolved the paint underneath. And parts of this are going to be hard to clean up. Wow. What a thing. What a thing. All because of that one little flaw there that I decided I was going to try to fix. The whole thing has to be like, oh man. What can I say? I have to apologize to everybody who's watching. Sometimes things just happen that are just totally unexpected. I wonder if probably none of these solvents are going to work. I mean, whatever was in that paint did a nice job of totally Yeah, okay, that kind of works. I need to be careful with this so I don't make a mess of just absolutely all of it. This is just isopropyl alcohol. Okay, well, here we go. What I thought was going to be a victory lap. You know, this thing's almost done. It's coming along really well. It's going to look pretty. Turned out to be. Yeah, here we go. Trying to clean this up so I can respray it. I think as oopses go, I can't even say that was an oops. It was a thing that just should not have happened. It was, what the hell? Yeah, I used a naughty word. It was so unexpected. It deserves that. It deserves a naughty word. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. This was supposed to be like relaxing painting. I just saw that one little blip there. I decided, okay, I'm just going to respray it. That should have been a simple, straightforward thing. It just made a huge mess. I mean, just a disaster of a mess. So now I get to do some not relaxing paint removal. Yeah, and this little blit here, this is not good either. Surprise. That little round bit actually ends up showing. The foil doesn't cover that round bit. It looks like that part is flawed as well. Well, sometimes things just go badly. They just go wrong. And in this case, it just went, wow. And I'm going to cover this box up. I'm probably spill in there and mess up everything. So, yeah, I'm going to be messing around trying to remove this paint, and then I'm going to respray it. And maybe it'll be ready by the end of the second half of the stream after break. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, seriously, it was just like putting a second coat on. This thing had been dry. I mean, it wasn't like it was still wet paint. It had been dried for a full day. So totally, completely do not understand what happened. That next spray of paint just completely dissolved what was under it and alligatored it. And when I wiped it off, everything just came off. And so something that was, okay, well, that's a flaw. It doesn't look good. Maybe I should fix it, turned into, to start over. Yeah, well, sometimes sometimes things happen, and sometimes it's Monday, and it just Monday. I was kind of worried about, what would I chat about while I'm doing this relaxing painting, because I would actually be doing some painting today. Get to talk about instead is I can't believe that happened. Yeah, all the paint on the side is going to get screwed up too because it's dripping. But that's getting covered with mylar foil. Not terribly worried about that. Take most of this off because it's going to just alligator up again, and in places that when one turns this upside down, I don't know why they want to do that, but somebody will. They'll say, "Oh, look, that really made a mess, didn't it? What did you do there?" Oh, I bet you tried to put a second coat of paint over something that was totally dry. That should work. Why didn't it work? I don't know. Why didn't it work? It didn't work. It always works. So I'm going to lapse into sullen silence here. Sullen silence of, I can't believe that happened. What in the heck? What went wrong? That have gone. I suppose when I paint, yeah, what's going to happen now is I'm going to paint the top of the bottom here. I'm going to repaint this, and the spray will get on the sides and mess up the sides of it as well. I'm going to mask this whole thing. At this point, I'm starting to learn a lesson and say trust nothing. So I'm actually going to mask all around it so that um, the paint that should just, like put a second coat on something doesn't destroy everything else, especially these little pieces here. It's really too bad because the rest of this came out really quite well. It's very nice, smooth, glossy kind of surface, and yeah, split, just that little bit of repair. Nope, not fixed, broken, broken beyond all recognition. So, yeah, I just managed to undo like an entire day's worth of work by attempting to fix one little flaw that didn't appear until I was ready to go ahead with the next steps. And in attempting to fix something, I broke it very badly. I mean, really made a mess of it. So, yeah, then that's what I'm doing. I am doing emergency trying to fix this. I hope it doesn't just continue to be even worse because I can't get all of the paint off and all of the spots. I'm just gonna be sighing and grunting and moaning and thinking. I'm not thinking. Let's just say that, you could get as much fairy dust as you possibly could, but the happy thoughts are not coming. Tinkerbell would not get me levitated here today. Not how this went. So if you're just getting in and you're saying, why am I taking the gold paint off? Because, I thought this was supposed to be the gold paint goes on. And the answer to that is yes, it should have been. I'm taking the gold paint off because when I looked at this before I just started to paint the rocket nozzle, okay, before I did that, I saw a flaw in the paint. And so I decided I would just sand it down a little bit, make it smooth. Okay, there was just a spot where it was rough. The surface texture was rough. So I thought I'm just going to sand it down and make it smooth. And I sanded it and polished it nicely so that it was nice and smooth. And then I got out the paint and spray painted it. And instead of just putting on a second coat, it dissolved the undercoat and alligatored the surface, and it just turned it into a disaster. So now I am removing the paint. Probably have to do it in here too, even though that's going to be painted a different color, because that's going to alligator up and look awful and not smooth the way it should be. So I am removing as much of the gold paint as I can and getting the surface as smooth as I can so that I can repaint it. They say in Home Alone, Fardo Marson, Bardo, Farner, Darsto, Bardo, Fardo, Bardo, something like that. Now, you couldn't really say those words in Home to strongly imply what they might be. Okay, I am strongly implying those words, what those words would be. So by now, I should have painted the ladder and the platform. At least, mostly. I should have painted the interior of these things. I should have had, and I should be starting to play around with the Mylar gold foil emulator. I should have been that far along, and as you can see, I am not. Nope, not. I am not, because in an effort to fix something, I broke something, and I broke it. I mean, it was even more broke than the last time I had to repaint something, which also was the gold paint, by the way. But that didn't do this, It was just a nice second coat that went on top of the gold paint. And it didn't dissolve the undercoat, and it didn't alligator the surface. I just don't understand. But it's really clear, when I wiped it off, that it had completely dissolved the undercoat. Yeah, I know this is getting messed up too. I don't care about that, because the sides are going to be covered in Mylar gold foil. This sure was a waste of gold paint, though. I'm getting impatient. I want it to be done. And I know that, what'll happen is if I'm impatient, I won't clean it off enough. And then it'll look even worse than it did before because I didn't clean it enough. So, let's see. Maybe we should talk about 60s television. Just doing this and feeling frustrated and upset. Things that talked. Okay, 60s television. Things that talked that wouldn't, in real life talk. I can only think of two. Maybe there are others. Maybe I'll think of more as I continue to worry away at this paint and trying to get rid of it. I can think of Mr. Ed, of course. Of course. I had to say it that way. Because no one can talk to a horse, of course, and he really can't. Not even Mr. Ed could talk, really. That was just, you know that, right? That it was just, that the horse wasn't really talking. Of course, you knew that, of course. So there's Mr. Ed. That was fake talking. And then the other one I can think of is My Mother the Car. It was, when you even saying it, even saying the title of the show sounds dumb. Somebody's mother passes and comes back as a car or haunts the car or something. It's an old car, like a Model A or whatever. And you go, what? Who would possibly even think of that? Who would even think of that? Much less turn it into a TV show, like paying real money to actors and writers and production staff and everything to make a television show about somebody's mother coming back haunting a car. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure it lasted at least one season. You go, why? Why would it last at least one season? I don't know if it came back again or not. But it is. Just that really happened. There really was a TV show like that. And and then I don't remember much about it. It was like, we'd even want to watch it. It's kind of a weird and gross idea anyway. And how did the car talk? With Mr. Ed, you at least horses kind of make noises. They can't talk, they can't form words, but they can at least make noises. So there's this hint of possibility. There's this maybe a tiny little hint that maybe a horse, some sort of mutant horse, could form words. But this was like a really old car. They didn't have radios in those cars. So there weren't like speakers or anything that could project the voice. So maybe, everything's on YouTube nowadays or something. Maybe there's like some reason somebody might have like preserved an episode of My Mother the Car. And someone, I don't know, me, would I want to watch that just so I could talk about it? Sure, I would want to. but it's possible maybe to watch it and get some idea of what could they possibly be thinking when they made this show. Now I'm getting most of it off. I haven't harmed the sides too much there, but like I said, the foil's going around that. So there's that saving grace. At least this stuff sort of eventually, dissolves. This it's basically rubbing alcohol. Basically, why did I say basically? It is rubbing alcohol. It's isopropyl alcohol. That's what it is. Dissolves the paint. And so with enough rubbing at it and a little bit of patience, which is wearing very thin, eventually it comes off, and hopefully enough of it is off that I can clean it up with some sandpaper and get it to the point where if there is paint underneath, like here, that enough of it is gone that it's not just going to alligator up at me again. But I should probably take it off the sides there, because that's going to show. That's going to significantly show. I'm really lucky. I think I am. There's nobody in chat. So I think I'm lucky enough that nobody's really watching this. So they didn't get to see me do a disaster. And they're not wondering why am I taking paint off of this thing? What is going on? So maybe maybe this particular episode of Relaxing Seriously would have been painting. I would have been doing relaxing painting if I hadn't decided to fix a flaw that was relatively minor and turned it into huge oops, like a major oops, maybe the biggest oops of all the oopses so far in this particular stream. Getting not careful, I'm going to snap off those little struts. Go down. Got like hours and hours of nobody watching, relaxing, removing painting. So I'm doing it just for myself here. And so there's no need to be in a hurry. It'll get done eventually. Just take one's time. Take your time. Take your time. Speculate about why my mother the car ever existed. That's a good question. Kind of a really good existential kind of question. Why did my mother the car exist? It's a TV show. Does this still exist out there? Can you still find episodes of it? Yeah. Was it such an embarrassment to humanity that all record of its existence, except from, did I remember this correctly? That really happened? That kind of thing? That all records of its existence have been expunged? Could that be the case? Could that be why no one talks about my mother the car? because it's only some older people who have this vague recollection of, yeah, that was a real TV show. It really was, believe me. Everybody goes, yeah, right. So, the people who remember My Mother the Car end up in the memory assistance programs, or can you still find evidence of it? Will you still get old episodes of it? Would anyone try? Is it the kind of thing where someone would be intrigued by the idea, like this lost bizarre thing? Did it really exist? Can I find evidence of its real existence? Kind of like an archaeological thing, historical, maybe an episode of Ghost Hunters or something. Almost of that category. It's almost that kind of thing. That could be a challenge. That could be a challenge to anybody who is watching this disaster of an episode, this disaster of a stream. Watching a disaster unfold. You can speculate about the existence of My Mother the Car. Maybe go on a search. My Mother the Car hunt. I somehow have this horrible feeling that after I do this and I repaint it, it's going to be bad again. Like, is this going to be a recurring nightmare? Paint and paint removal. Why is this particular piece of paint here not coming off? You can speculate here. You can speculate about this. Why is like the biggest oops that has happened waxing painting with Dyson Dungeons? Why has the biggest oops ever? This thing was like the size of, it was like 2 millimeters by 3 millimeters, and it was just just an unevenness in the surface of the gold paint down here on the bottom where no one would ever really even see it. And it should have been a really, really easy, simple fix. Why did that turn into just a huge disaster? And further, then, ask yourself, why did that huge disaster, that gigantic oops, prompt memories of My Mother the Car? Are they related in some way? Did like a gigantic oops, I can't believe this happened, why am I ending up having to spend hours and hours undoing something that I did that I was actually quite happy with? Okay. Why did that lead to memories of this TV show that should never have existed called My Mother the Car? Like a reliving a trauma event kind of thing? Is it of that level? Maybe it is. I mean, it just really might be. Things should just never, maybe should never have happened. Maybe I'm going to get sued for that. Maybe, I don't know. There might still be like residuals or rights or copyright, or maybe there's a law that says you can't diss my mother the car. So I'm going to just, maybe I should stop talking about it because it might, maybe it's a danger. It might endanger Dyson Dungeons. I don't want to endanger Dyson Dungeons by talking about my mother's car. But I could be doing that. I don't know. I really don't understand how that happened because I had done second coats on this before. You know, I let this dry, not even as long as this time around. Okay. And I came back and I sprayed a second coat on a couple of parts because they weren't covered, basically up on the top here. Okay. And I didn't have a problem. And this time I just sprayed it and it dissolved the paint and elongated the surface. Can't explain it other than to go, maybe this model is cursed. The curse of Apollo model making. Yep, I know that if I, what's going to happen is if I don't get it really clean, so there's a little spot like this, that isn't coming off, that's going to bubble up and just ruin everything. It's just going to happen like that. I'm not going to get these little creases in here, right? I won't get those clean, and so there'll be like jumping out bubbles of gold paint and who knows what. Well, I managed to clean off a lot of it. It's not done yet. I'm going to have to keep at it because I know that's going to be true. That spots like this, if they're not completely clean, it just will bubble up like it did for last time, and then there'll be a mess, and it'll be even a bigger mess, and I'll have to do it again. Well, I'd like to keep going on speculating about the car, but I know that I probably entered a danger zone already. Probably going to get banned now, banned from the internet, banned from ever watching reruns of old 60s television shows. There's nothing good can probably come of this, right? Maybe I should talk about Mr. Ed. You know, that was the other thing where something that shouldn't have been able to talk did. Mr. Ed was kind of fun. What was the neighbor's name? There was a neighbor who did not like the owner of Mr. Ed. They didn't get along. And then it was a frequent trope that Mr. Ed would say something that would be offensive to the neighbor. Okay. Blame Ed's owner? Ooh. Can you own a sentient talking animal like that? That's kind of weird. Be a little bit definitely incorrect, politically incorrect. But yeah, so it was one of those, you know, where the neighbor would hear something that Mr. Ed would say, and Wilbur was his name. Yeah, Wilbur would say, I didn't say that. Well, then who said it? And then Wilbur couldn't say, well, the horse said it, because that would be, you know, believe that. So we kind of point at the horse. What are you trying to say, Wilbur? The horse said it. Oh, yeah, but no. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Always knew that was going to happen. You know, Mr. Ed would say something, get Wilbur in trouble, and Wilbur couldn't blame the horse because no one can talk to a horse, of course. No, this is where I would go. I think maybe this is good enough, and then it'll turn out that it's not. I probably need to clean this inside. Because if I respray this whole thing, it'll dissolve that. And then that'll be all alligatored. And then when I try to paint it, it'll be a mess. Add it. I have no idea how this is going to end up. I'm hoping it doesn't end up worse than when it started. I'm putting fingerprints all over the side now. The sides are getting screwed up. Fortunately, the sides. Oh, this is getting screwed up because I've been. Damn it! No, everything is just ruined. I mean, it just really is. See, what happened was that as I was cleaning this, I set this down, right? And it rubbed the paint off. It did. It rubbed the paint off these little bits, and those have to be painted. These edges show. These edges are important. And by setting it down, I should have set it on something like this, right? Instead of something abrasive. No. Did I do that? No. Getting impatient now. I'm getting upset. Okay. I took 2 days worth of work. 2 days worth of work. Okay. And just totally screwed it up. Just totally, completely screwed it up. Oh, just completely. I mean, just without it. I mean, irredeemably. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I mean, seriously, I painted this over the weekend. It came out pretty well. I was ready to move forward. I was looking forward to putting mylar foil on, even though that would be kind of a challenge. Um, and then I tried to fix a flaw on the bottom of this that was barely visible. That really wasn't an issue. And I did, damn it. I knew that. I knew I was going to do that. Okay. I mean, everything is going bad. Everything is going wrong here. I almost broke off a piece because I'm not holding it right. And I'm getting impatient and angry. And I am. This has got to stop. I have to stop. I have marred the entire surface of this. I've made a mess of everything. I broke this off again. Okay. I'm going to stop. Just stop. Okay. I need to fix this. And then I need to, I don't know what I can do. I mean, this actually has stopped being, this has stopped being just awful, and it's moved on to, I'm not sure I can keep working on this because it's gone so badly. Okay, so what happened was, just to recap, on the bottom, I painted this whole thing. It was really pretty decent. It was like B+ territory, right? It was okay. And then there was this little flaw right here where what apparently when the paint hadn't completely dried when I turned it over to paint the top. And it just stuck on one tiny little spot, kind of, how that can happen. And there was a little bit of a flaw, just a little bit of a flaw. And I thought, this will be easy to fix. I can either leave it and live with it. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to just live with it. I want this to look better because it's big enough to just be, why weren't you more careful? And so I sanded it down, made it nice and smooth, and I was just going to spray it again, basically a second coat of paint. And the paint dissolved the paint underneath, and it alligatored it. And then I wiped it off, and it just took all the paint off completely, and it was like, I can't fix this anymore. I have to remove the paint. So I've been removing the paint on this side, the bottom, okay? I've been removing the paint on the bottom. And as you can see, I've got most of it off. It still needs some cleaning. Because otherwise any of these remnant bits of paint will alligator up, apparently. But the thing is, I laid it down like this, okay, as I was cleaning this off. So I wasn't holding it. And what I did is I rubbed off the paint here and here and here and here in these eye spots. And now these are highly visible. And so that got messed up, and then this got scratched. And so the top of this now, which is the top, right? This is going to show, is now screwed up. I'm not too worried about the sides because those get covered with metal foil, but I could have been careful. And put it on a non-abrasive surface like a paper towel like this, so it wouldn't probably wouldn't have rubbed off. It might still have. I don't know. So now I think I need to remove the paint on the top as well. So most of the paint comes off, and then there's always spots like this that for some reason don't, and maybe I might need to sandpaper this whole thing. And then as I was, anyway, I got so upset that I broke a thing that kept breaking. It's really fragile. So yeah, I should have been done with this by now. You know, if I hadn't tried to fix that one little flaw, and if it hadn't like just totally gone south and just totally ruined. Probably the only good thing is that I can take the paint off without dissolving the plastic. I mean, that's a good thing, right? It would be even worse if I couldn't remove the paint without dissolving the plastic, and then I would have to carefully sand off every little bit. I still have to sand it. You know, I don't know what to do now. Because if I spray paint this again, you know, recover the top, well, I have the same problem. You know, I second coated parts of this and didn't have that problem. If I spray paint this, will it dissolve all of that and alligator it? Or will I actually be lucky and it will be okay? Okay, I'm going to take a huge chance. I'm going to clean this up the rest of the way as much as I can. Okay, just give it some 800 grit sandpaper, if I can find it. I'm going to clean this up as much as I can, and then paint it. I'm going to spray paint it again. I'm going to take a huge chance, just a huge chance, and repaint the top. Hi, Ole. Yeah, it's a nice gold color. You missed an absolute, total, complete disaster. I'd painted this over the weekend, okay, and it came out okay. And then I was going to paint the rocket nozzle entrance area here a silver color, you know, where the rocket nozzle goes in. This whole thing used to be gold. And right there was a spot where apparently when I turned it over, I'm guessing what happened was the paint wasn't completely dry and it stuck a little bit. So there was this little spot. It was, I don't know, this big, like 2 millimeters by 3 millimeters, that had a rough surface texture. And I said to myself, what I could do is, why don't I just sand that out, okay, sand out the roughness and respray it. And so I did, and it was nice and smooth, okay, and then I got the spray out and I sprayed it, and it wasn't quite a fingerprint. What it looked like was like the paint, I thought the paint was dry because I let it sit for hours, and I turned it over to paint the top. And when I picked it up, I think what happened was there was a little spot that stuck. So it was just a rough surface texture right there. And it bothered me, so I sanded it out. And then when I resprayed it, and I've second coated this before without this problem. When I resprayed it, it dissolved the paint underneath and alligatored it. And so there was this big spot here where it alligatored. And so I've now spent an hour removing the paint from here. Now that was bad enough, right? I mean, that I'm sitting here removing all the gold paint so I can repaint it because I screwed it up by trying to fix a flaw. But what I was doing that, I put this on the cardboard without thinking, and here I rubbed off the paint on these high surfaces, and this is the top of it, and this shows. This is very, very visible. And then it kind of abraded here. So now the top of it is, I mean, I should be able to just get the spray paint out, right? And it'd all be touched up, and you'd never know that there was any problem. But I'm afraid that if I repaint this with the same spray paint, even though second coated it before without a problem, that it will just make a mess up here. And dissolve the paint and alligator it. Maybe, what do you think? Maybe I could reprime it? How can I test that? If the primer doesn't dissolve the paint, okay, if the primer doesn't dissolve the paint, I can just reprime this thing and respray it. I mean, there'll be a paint buildup. Maybe I'll lose the texture. Maybe it'll be a little bit different, but how can I test that without knowing for sure? Because I probably should reprime this anyway, just to cover up the little remnants of paint that are left. That isn't completely cleaned up. Yeah, that's what I should do. Is I should test it. Okay, I'm definitely going to do that. I need to redo this whole thing, and if I can reprime it and repaint it, that would be good. The surfaces textures aren't real rough or anything, so that's not a problem. Here we go. I'm actually going to I'm going to go off camera here for a minute. Getting a thing. This is the base, the moon base. Pretty cool, actually. But I have the back. I'm going to spray gold paint on that. And then I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go over there and just a little bit and let it dry. And then after break, I'm going to put the primer on it and test it. And if it doesn't dissolve it, then I think I've got a solution. A little bit of spritz of gold paint in a not very well ventilated area. What can go wrong? Well, anyway, yeah, this so this was all ready to go, except for that one little flaw. I was going to paint the interior of this silver color, and then this silver color. I still can paint these. Okay, the ladder and the these are all pieces of paper towel that are covered in paint that sort of dissolved. Oh, I really need to. So this is, well, I guess this is a really, really how not to do something episode here. It's okay. First of all, don't have flaws in your paint, and if you do, then Make sure that your paint doesn't dissolve itself the next time you go around with it. So yeah, this was good. I was ready to go. This would have been like half assembled already, and I was planning to finish it this week, the descent stage. I really thought I'd be able to finish it this week, but I'm losing an entire day of the stream because of paint dissolving itself. I mean, go figure. How could that happen? So I've been sitting here going, oh no, and then I became obviously upset. What can you say? I did get fairly upset and started making mistakes and almost created a huge disaster, even huger than the disaster I already had created. Here, this is the one I want. And I managed to waste an entire stream, and fortunately, I haven't dissolved the plastic yet. My travel was actually pretty decent. We were going to visit our son in Germany, but because of a whole series of unfortunate events, he and his wife were not in Germany. And so we took the Queen Mary to Hamburg, kind of like a trip to nowhere. It was very pleasant. And decided to, we went to Copenhagen for 2 days, just because we were there. We were close, fairly close by. It was a 4-hour train trip, I guess, from Hamburg. And just did kind of tourist things. We went to Tivoli, of course. We were told, go there in the evening to see the lights come on. And it was actually very pretty. The crowds disappeared. The crowds kind of disappeared in the evening, so it wasn't, but then the lights came on, and it was gorgeous. Copenhagen is a beautiful city. I mean, they kept saying it's a small city, and it kind of is. We were able to walk to a lot of places. We went from our hotel, which was near Tivoli, in the train station. We wanted to be near the train station because we had a lot of luggage. And, we did tourist things. We did the hop on, hop off bus because we just wanted to see, where things were. Did the harbor cruise, which was really cool. I always liked harbor cruises, but that one, it's really gorgeous. The Royal Yacht was there. The Royal Yacht was in, so we got to cruise past that. We weren't invited on. Nobody waved to us and said, hey, come on over. Why not? So that didn't happen, but the rest of it was pretty, and it's really easy to get around. We went to the food hall place, and just a huge variety of really good food. The first night there, we had a traditional Danish meal, which consisted of way too much food. Okay, I didn't realize that. Denmark is, it's a small country. We learned that we were saying Copenhagen wrong all the time. And for some reason here in the States, we keep thinking it's, Copenhagen sounds really cool, right? That's how you should say European words. So we said that, and we were corrected that it's Copenhagen. We don't know how to say these things. It's Tivoli. Tivoli, actually, the V is kind of like an F sound, we found out, not Tivoli. So we became more sophisticated in our language. but it was really pretty, and the area around it is just flying. Coming in on the train, it was really pretty as well. So yeah, so this is a place I'd go back to. And it turns out that that's pretty handy being able to do that. We live in Michigan, and in the Lower Peninsula, there's the Upper Peninsula. You can drive for like 12 hours to get from one corner of the state to the other, and that's without stopping. If you didn't stop, because it's just expansive. But I really liked Denmark. It was, well, as much of it as we saw, which was basically Copenhagen. But it had, what was it? It had just the features of a lot of places. It was, a little bit Amsterdam-y, because the canals along the seafront, some houseboats and things. Some of the ambiance of the shops, it was sort of Hamburgy as well, because of the same reasons. My son said it was kind of like a cross between Amsterdam and Hamburg. I'm not sure. I mean, trying to describe it in terms of something else, what you probably should say is something like Amsterdam is like a big, messy Copenhagen. I think maybe that would be fair. But there was a real vibrancy to the city that sometimes don't get in some European cities that take themselves real seriously. Does that make sense? There are some places that just take themselves too seriously, and they lose their kind of liveliness. Or at least some parts of cities get to be that way. Anyway, really liked it a lot. I'm glad we went there. It wasn't our intent. The trip didn't turn out the way we planned it more than a year ago. But it turned out to be a really nice, kind of an unexpected event. The restaurants are good. My son likes to point out that the beer is very good. This is true. Yeah, Boston is different than the other East Coast cities. Way different than New York. I have to say, probably whenever you pick favorites, right? Whenever you say like something more than something else, everybody gets upset. But I do have to say that I like Boston quite a lot more than, say, New York, just in terms of just about everything. It's easier, somewhat easier actually to get around in. The parks are nice. The waterfront is really beautiful. Had some amazing Italian food in Boston. Yeah. I mean, there are places, a couple of spots in New York that are kind of maybe a little bit like that, like around Columbia University. There's a kind of that feeling, but the big cities up East Coast, New York, Philadelphia, Jersey, Boston is. If I had to be in, I would be in. I'm not much of a, East Coast city person. And how was it? Was it friendly? Oh yeah, Bunker Hill. Oh, you got to see quite a bit. So was the Constitution, Old Ironsides, was that open when you were there? Were you able to go on that? The warship from the War of 1812. It's called Old Ironsides. It was made from U.S. oak, and they called it that because the oak planking was so robust that the cannonballs bounced off of it. Oh, you did go? Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's also, let's just say, it didn't look like it was very pleasant for the people who are on the ship. Very dark underneath. There's no light. They have what they're called lanterns, which are like little glass things, that prisms that supposedly filter light down into it. Yeah, we did that when we were in Boston once, a tour. They were just finishing rebuilding it because it's a wooden ship. Basically, everything rots all the time. And so there's hardly anything original left of the ship, which is true. Sailing ships, if they survived at all, were usually rebuilt like every 3 or 4 years, almost completely. And that's true of Old Ironsides. The last time we were there, it was they were just putting the masts back up. Yeah, I believe that that's probably true. Yeah, doctoring then basically was whoever could cut off a leg the fastest, right? Well, if they told that story, there's a chance that was actually true. That's a possibility. Okay, well, I've got enough of the paint off the bottom of this. I think that I can reprime the bottom for sure, and then I'll do the test. Yeah, okay. That's true. There you go. I'm sure there was did you get the usual nervous laughter at that? Meat and bone? Yeah. So he was, yeah, probably the ship's surgeon, as they called him, right? When surgery essentially was cutting off limbs. So I saw the video, your inspirational video. Say it's too vacations. It always rains on vacations, right? But I was impressed. You managed to climb that hill. There were parts of it that looked pretty steep, but the view was worth it. Anyway, I enjoyed your video. Mm-hmm. The place you were staying at looked gorgeous. I mean, with the view over the lake. And then the farm you went to was kind of fun. But yeah, I have to say that the hill climb was an impressive feat. So you said you didn't do the round trip. You just went back the way you came up. Is it different going down the other way? So let me ask you this. This is a production question. You don't have to give away your secrets. So you're walking on this hill and you're climbing the hill and you're climbing Oh, okay. That the other route was too muddy. Yeah. So you're climbing toward your camera, right? Did you have someone with you to set up the camera, or did you have to walk up, set the camera, go back down, and then walk up toward the camera? Did you have to make the climb twice every time you took a shot like that? That's what I thought. Yeah, when I saw that, it's like, okay, there's nobody with you. I noticed that none of your family members took the walk with you. But yeah, that's what I was afraid of for you. Afraid for you that you had to make every time you took a shot of you climbing a hill that you had to do it twice. I can understand why you went back the other way. So the view from the top, as you were climbing, you were just climbing. So, you could see the steepness of it. But when you got to the top, looking down at the lake, it looked like it was really up a long way. Oh. Okay, so at the very top, there's a lake that, okay. So you were on a slow moving waterfall the whole time, coming down from with the water coming down from the lake. So about how high up were you above the lake where you were staying? Because it looked from your video, it looked like it was up a long way. Maybe, I don't know, we would say 400 or 500 feet, maybe more. Excuse me. But the view was pretty amazing. Okay, I'm going to stop messing with this because I'm hoping that the primer covers up what's left. And as I said, I did a test patch of gold paint on the inside of one of the other pieces of this where it won't show. I'm going to test the primer on that. Oh, wow, that's a big climb. 1,500, that is, congratulations on doing that. That's a long way up. Okay, so the thing I'm going to try to do is salvage this now and I hope I don't have to clean off this as well. We'll see. Is that I'm going to let the gold paint dry over break. I'm going to get something done before break. And I'm going to let the paint dry, the gold paint dry. I'm going to spray some primer on it. Well, thank you for joining in. It was really good that you did, because I was getting very, very disturbed here at how badly this was going. So I appreciate that that we had a chance to chat. So have a good dinner. And yeah, I'm going to be taking a break in about 20 minutes. I'll be back in about a little less than an hour from now after break. And hopefully I'll be able to test the primer, and hopefully that will work. And then I'll repaint this tonight or tomorrow and come back to it on Wednesday, I guess. And hopefully do Wednesday what I was planning to get done today. So I'm going to let this sit here as just an object of shame. Have a good dinner, and look forward to seeing you later. Okay, so this is the body of the descent stage. It was really well done. It was coming along well. I was about to make significant progress today. I tried to fix a problem. I made the problem worse. I ended up having to remove the paint here. And now if the primer goes over the gold paint without dissolving it, then I can reprime this and repaint it, and Wednesday be able to do what I was planning to do today. That's the hope. If the primer dissolves the paint, well, the upside of that would be that I'll have a paper towel handy, and if it dissolves the gold paint, I will wipe off as much of the paint as I possibly can so that the process of removing the paint goes quickly. Just remembering to retape this hole to recover it. Cut it too small. I'm covering this because the inside is painted black. So when the rocket nozzle is eventually actually installed, it looks black inside and not white, which would be wrong. Okay, so I spent the entire first half of the stream trying to recover from just a mess, just a disaster. And I don't know what to say. As close as I came to just like turning off the camera and walking away in frustration so far. I'm going to paint these. This is the ladder, and what can go wrong? Huh. What can possibly go wrong? I'm going to paint them silver because that's the color that they're painted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the bottom of this first. Okay. Let it dry and turn it over and paint the top. And this I'm going to grab right on the corner here, tiny corner, with an alligator clip. And then after the paint dries, I will paint that little bit. And this paint doesn't dissolve itself as far as I remember. So yeah, this whole body got, just a disaster, total disaster. And if you haven't, then you can go on YouTube and witness the disaster from start to finish. It was not good. It was definitely not a good thing. It was definitely a bad thing. Okay, so here it is. Here's the relaxing painting du jour. I'm painting the bottom of the platform onto which the astronauts step when they come out of the lunar excursion module. I will probably get paint all over my fingers. I don't know how, but I will. And then I'll probably touch something and get paint on that where I don't want it. I'm not sure how, but I will. Witnessing me at my grumpiest, absolute grumpiest today because it went bad. It was bad, bad, bad. And I don't know if it will get better. So much will depend whether the primer dissolves the gold paint or not. If the primer dissolves the gold paint, then I have a huge problem. Not insoluble, but really, really annoying. In that I would have to remove the paint from the top as well as the bottom, which I have done. So this is it. Enjoy this, because this is as relaxing as anything is going to be today. The most likely problem with this, I'll just say that because how can there not be a problem? The most likely problem with this is that I'll miss spot. And then I'll have to come back and do some touching up on it. That's actually, a fairly high probability thing. That where I've held it with the clip there. When I take the clip off, then I'll just get some more of this silvery paint out and touch that spot up. Now I'm going to rotate this in many different directions because, as I have learned many times in the past, it's easy to miss a spot and hard to see the spot that got missed. But by rotating it in many different directions, while not guaranteeing, it increases the probability of finding the spots that got missed. Well, that's a good color. That should be a good color for this. I'm going to use a darker colored gunmetal for the interior of the cone here. The other thing I should test, there's absolutely no reason why this paint should dissolve the gold. Absolutely none. But I know it will. Okay. I'll put this in my handy dandy wood block to hold it up. There we go. There's the spot I missed. Rack it there. And here. Check it in this direction. Okay, well, there. I did some painting. On this, I did some unpainting. Lots of unpainting happened there. beyond sighing. I'm growling today. Today is not a sighing day. Today is a groaning and moaning and growling day. It's I can't believe this happened day. I really can't believe it happened. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do after the break here. No, I mean, I will paint the other side of the stand, the platform. I'll touch up the corner of the ladder. You know, I'll be able to do that. But I'm not going to be able to do what I was planning to do. So one thing I can do is I'll just show this to you. This is another one of those, should I bother or will it just make it worse situations? Okay. Here you get all these little bits. All these little bits are the struts for the landing the landing gear, right? And some of them, I mean, none of them were well molded. They all had mold marks and seams showing and stuff. But some of these, some of these were really badly done. Like the two halves of the molds didn't match up. And so the seams are showing significantly. This one has a piece of dust on it. Moon filament, right? It's on my lap. You can't see what I'm doing. I'm trying to, there was a piece of dust. Those. But one of these was really bad when I put it in the box. But now I'm not seeing the problem as much. Maybe this is a good thing. This is a leave it alone kind of situation. I'm pretty sure maybe it were these pieces. I don't know. There were a couple of them where maybe it's a good thing I'm not assembling today, because I'd be like dropping them and breaking them and stuff. So Wednesday would be a better day. I don't know. One of these pieces, the two halves of the mold didn't line up, and so I think it was like this one. So the seam line just really shows, but now I'm not seeing it. And if I'm not seeing it, I guess I shouldn't worry about it. Yeah, when I put them in the box, it was like, oh, this is awful. But now I'm looking at them, and it's I'm not really seeing the problem. This one is, yeah, it's just, they're fine. Yeah, these go together almost completely without any cement. They're supposed to fold in on themselves. So the only thing that gets cemented is the ends of these into the holes on the pads. And these little prongs here at the bottom get cemented into the bottom of this. In these holes here, if this ever gets to the point where anything can be done with it other than throwing it away and crying in despair. I'm going to, let's see. Yeah, my clock on the wall is 5 minutes fast. These are going to dry. After the break, I'm going to test the primer on the gold paint. And if it works, then this is going to end up tomorrow, be primed and repainted, hopefully without a problem. Hopefully without more problems. And if it does work, if it melts the paint, then I'm going to be spending the rest of the stream cleaning the paint off of this. Yay. if it does work, then I think what I'll do with the stream is start pulling the pieces for the command module out, because I can't do any assembly until this thing is successfully painted. Yeah, well, I can't do anything at the moment. Really have to wait for this to dry. So I'm going to take my break early, 5 minutes early, and I'll be back. I'll be back after break, and yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Thanks for watching so far. Do come back in about a half an hour, and let's see how things go. You know, just let's find out. Okay. Well, I'm back from the break. I didn't break anything during the break. I guess that's good, so to speak. So, sort of good news. The sort of good news is that I tested the primer, the gold paint. I had two kinds of primer. I had the modeling Vallejo primer, of which I have, I hope, enough. I need to order more, but I hope I have enough. And it didn't dissolve the gold paint. The gray primer is not as, I mean, it's made for plastic, but it's not a modeling primer. So I'm going to reprime this. Reprime the bottom, reprime the top, and repaint it, and hopefully in a way that isn't a disaster. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to prime the bottom, let it dry thoroughly, prime the top, let it dry thoroughly, paint the top. And this bit, the sides, I'm not too worried about. And then, I don't know, maybe I'll just hold it. I might just hold it like this and spray the bottom. I don't know. I don't want to mess it up again. But it's going to get reprimed tomorrow, either today or tomorrow, and then repainted. And I hope I have enough primer, and I hope I have enough gold paint to do it. The primer is pretty low. And then we'll see what happens. And at least on the sides, I'm just not worried about the sides, because they're going to get covered in gold mylar. And so if they get messed up, they just get messed up. That's just the way it is. Thinking of a way. Let me try this. Doesn't quite fit, but I was thinking of putting a dowel, just like I did with the ascent stage. I rubber cemented a dowel into the opening, and that way I was able to hold it and not have to set it down and potentially mar the surface by it not being dry enough. Well, since this, I'm going to play around with that a little bit. Let me why not? I mean, this whole stream has been a disaster today so far. So what can go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? There might be some things yet that haven't gotten on yet that I don't know about, but it hasn't gone wrong yet. I've sort of used this in the past with some success. Let's see. What I'm trying to do is I've done this before. I've used a paper towel to make like a plug. Okay. Stuck it on the end of a stick and put the stick in the hole. This would serve two purposes. It would fill the hole, which I want. And it would give me a handle, which I also want. And I don't particularly mind if the inside of this doesn't, there, let's just keep knocking things. If the inside of this cone-shaped sort of thing doesn't get painted, because it's going to get painted a different color. I want this to be pretty tight, but not, I don't want to break anything by pushing on it too hard. But I also don't want it to fall out. So what if this works, what it would let me do is I can hold it like this and then just clamp it. Okay, so that's it. It's falling off right away. So I'm going to reprime the bottom, reprime the top. The sides, other than this little thing here, I don't, that has to be nicely painted because that's going to show outside the foil. So I reprime the bottom, reprime the top, paint them both, not set it down anywhere. Hopefully the paint will work. And then on Wednesday, I'll do what I was hoping to do today, which is start doing some assembly. Oh yeah, there was one other thing I was going to test. Paint I'm going to use. That's the color paint I'm going to use for the insides of the rocket nozzle area. That doesn't cause a problem. Well, I might be able to recover from the unmitigated disaster, the total, complete, horrible, no good, very bad disaster that I perpetrated on myself by trying to fix something that was a little bit flawed. So I unpainted this because the paint was all scabby. I'm going to reprime it. I'm going to reprime the top because in the process of fixing the scabby paint on the other side, I rubbed paint off of very visible areas here. Okay. And then I'm going to repaint the top and repaint the bottom. And the sides are going to get covered with Mylar goldish foil, except for that bit. So if the sides get messed up at this point, like they are already, like if the gold paint decides to dissolve the sides, like I don't care. It's going to get covered. as long as the bottom and the top are okay. You know, I've got a handle so I can paint it and rotate it and clamp it and not worry about setting it down and creating a 2 by 3 millimeter scar. Really. So, yeah, so now I'm going to touch up the bit of the ladder that got untouched. Got untouched because it has this alligator clip on it. So there's a little bit of white there that just needs to be painted silver. And then I'll rotate the rest of this to make sure that I got it all. Yep, all but that. And then turn this over and paint the platform. And those will get painted this chainmail silver paint. And then I'm going to have a bunch of stream time left. I'll have like about an hour, and I can't do what I was planning to do. So I'm going to do something I wasn't planning to do, and that would be to start pulling some of the pieces for the command module out. Why not? That's what's going to be next. So there. And if I seem grumpy today, it's because I had like the biggest unmitigated oops disaster in the history of relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons. Even more than like getting paint all over my hands and stuff. Even more than that. Need to have this on something. There, that'll work. I can still. I thought I painted. Yeah, I did. It just. What can I say? My mother, the car. Why did I say my mother, the car? Well, because before break, what I was talking about was, you know, trying to talk about 60s television, and it was television shows that had things in them that talk that really don't talk. And of course, was Mr. Ed, of course, because no one can talk to a horse, of course. There. But unless, of course, the horse is a famous Mr. Ed. But that aside, it was, you know, Flipper was okay because Flipper didn't talk. Flipper just made, you know, dolphin noises, porpoise noises. Acted happy about being in captivity and going on stupid adventures and stuff. It's like real dolphins. Then, you know, and there was Kit, the talking car, but that one had kind of an excuse, well, an explanation anyway, in that it was, you know, a highly technological thing and had a computerized voice that spoke through a speaker, okay, and little lights flashed because, you know, you couldn't talk without having LEDs or whatever they were at the time flashing so that you knew that talking was going on. So that one really doesn't fit the thing I was trying to talk about, which is stuff that shouldn't be able to talking. And that's where my mother, the car, came out, because this was an old car. I don't think it was a Model T, but it was kind of like, supposedly like that, a really old car. Maybe it was the car owned by his mother. I mean, that might even be it. but she passed, which was sad, and then came back to possess this car, either be the car or haunt the car. It wasn't really clear how that was going, but in any case, the car took on the voice and persona of this guy's mother. I think it was Jerry Van Dyke. I think it was like Dick Van Dyke's less famous brother. And I'm not sure that my mother, the car, helped his career really, when you think about it. But so that led, just to do, be repetitive, because I don't have anything original to talk about today, other than if I were to practice some of my naughty words, which I really wanted to do earlier when things went bad. Yeah, that. So I keep trying to think of other things that shouldn't have talked, but did. So Flipper really isn't an issue, because Flipper didn't talk. Flipper just made flipper noises. Mr. Ed, was in just a world on its own, a whole different category of talkingness. The pig on Green Acres didn't talk, even though people understood what Arnold was saying, which just made pig noises. So that wasn't it. The computer on Star Trek, that's not an issue. Really, that's not a problem, because that was just, like your smart speaker, which is really a smart microphone listening to everything you say that you use as your kitchen timer. Yeah, just the well's running dry there. Not coming up with anything else. So I've got like at least an hour. Hydrating here. Coffee's done. Had enough of that. Okay, well, let me recap. Here I am recapping. Over the weekend, oh, jeez. I almost made it. I almost did another thing. So over the weekend, I primed and painted all of these struts for the landing gear for the LEM. Okay, so these were all done. They came out pretty well, I think. I also primed and painted this, which was the body of the descent stage of the LEM. And I was all set to paint some of these things a darker silver, where the rocket motors either came out or went in. I was all set to do that, and I turned it over and saw a flaw right there on one of these sides, where apparently the paint hadn't dried completely. There was like a tiny little spot of paint, and when I turned it over to paint the other side, it stuck to something, and it just created a rough spot. I'll call it that. It was just like not smooth surface, like something like dirt got on it or something. So I thought to myself, I could either leave it and just live with the flaw, or I could fix it. And I said, well, let's go ahead and try to fix it. How hard can that be? And so I sanded it down so it was smooth. I sanded out the rough spot, and that worked pretty well. Polished it with like 2,000 grit sandpaper, and then got the spray paint out and sprayed it like you just do with a second coat, which I had done on parts of this earlier. Okay, like pick one side and the other, and then where the paint went over itself on the sides, nothing was wrong. But this time, it dissolved the paint underneath and alligatored it, and was, geez, no, what a problem. And so I had to clean that off, and in cleaning that off, it left rough edges. And so basically I spent all morning cleaning the paint off of the bottom. And in so doing, I, set this down, it turned out that there were high spots on this side, which is highly visible. This is the top of it. These high spots, the gold paint rubbed off. And so this got all messed up. Okay, those high spots. And I thought, well, that would be easy. I would just spray paint, right? But no, because the paint dissolves itself, if I just repainted the surface, it would all alligator up again and make it be even more of a disaster. So not wanting to have to clean it all off on this side, I said, well, maybe I can just reprime it, cover it with the primer, and then repaint it. And they said, oh, why don't you test it first before you really make a mess of things? So I did. And somewhere, I don't even know where I put it anymore. Oh, here, yeah. Here, so I spray painted some gold paint on here. This is the bottom of the moon base. Eventually, this is all going to get painted gray, to make it look, highlight the craters and stuff. This is where the lem lands. Came with the kit. And then there's a little astronaut guy here. And the astronaut guy gets to stand on the moon. Stand on the moon like that. I painted this pretty well. I think I got, the gold mask, and I got moon dirt on the legs. It's going to stand up there somewhere. I'll cement it on, but anyway, eventually this will be all moony, gray, gray and gray and gray, like 3 or 4 different shades of gray. Not 50, only 3 or 4. And then the moon guy will stand here, and the lem will be there. If the legs can get put together and work the way they're supposed to without breaking. And then, but on the base of it, because this doesn't show us the same plastic as the rest, I painted some gold paint, and then tested the primer. This is the white primer I used earlier, and this is some gray primer I've got as an emergency backup. And the white primer didn't melt the paint, so I'm going to reprime the thing there, the body of the descent stage of the lunar module. And then on Wednesday, I'll come back and start doing the stuff I was planning to do today. And then I got real clever and said, well, I don't want to set this down and make a mess again by turning it over too soon, or having it be a spot of paint that wasn't dry, or having there be some sort of paint on the thing where I turned it over. So I shoved the stick in it, and then I'm just going to hold it and spray paint it and prime it. And I'm mainly concerned about the top and the bottom. The sides, except for the cylinder, are all going to be covered with gold-colored mylar. This is going to go all around it. And the original lem did have this, and it was all crinkly, just like this. So this is authentic crushed mylar, gold mylar look stuff. And that goes all the way around the outside. In fact, I found a picture of the lem. It was a backup that they were going to use for orbital testing. That's at the Smithsonian now. And the legs, all these little bits were also wrapped in that. But even the pads weren't painted gold. They weren't gilded. They were wrapped in that stuff, and it was all crinkly and kind of ugly looking. And I'm not sure if I can get this done well and I can get this assembled. I'm mainly worried about getting these parts assembled. I'm not going to try to wrap them before that, because that's really tempting, isn't it? These are the struts in particular. These long ones are the exterior struts. If I could wrap those in the mylar, they would look more authentic. And then these are the very last things to go on. So if everything else is fine, like if this is okay and these are okay, I could try to wrap this as well. And it would make it look more authentic, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I might give that a try. I mean, what can go wrong that hasn't already? I can break pieces and not be able to mold them, or they're not going to fit together and then they won't fold like they're supposed to. I can think of many, many things that could go wrong. Anyway, this is going to get wrapped in that gold mylar stuff. And I'm just going to use either like contact cement, I think, which allows me to like push things on and rub it down. I have to find a way to cut it because I have to wrap it around here and then cut it right there so that it goes around this. Okay, so there's a cutout here for this cylinder. And then here, I may need to piece something together, like the mylar will come down and fold over. I'm not sure how that'll go. So most of this is pretty straightforward. I just need to get it up to the edges. So, yeah, that's what happened today. I should have been like 2/3 of the way through putting this stuff together. Instead, I am now going to be an entire stream behind, and instead of finishing it this week, even though I have 2 streams left, I just don't know anymore. I don't know how it's going to go. It's been like the most coming close to using bad words right out loud frequently stream ever. But it looks like it's recoverable. I hope anyway that I can recover it and it'll look okay. And then I can go ahead and start, piecing together all these struts, do the wrap. Who knows how that goes? At least I've got extra material. There's twice as much there as I need to finish the job. And then I can do, the last bits like attaching the platform and the ladder, and then the descent stage will be done. It'll end up looking like this when the ascent stage is attached to the descent stage. And then the next thing is supposed to be the second thing, but I put it off because of issues with the parts, is the command module, the thing that comes back to Earth that holds the astronauts. Ends up being pieced together like this. And the G, what is G supposed to be? It's not. They say paint the chairs light blue, but I have a picture of the interior of the command module, and the chairs were not painted light blue. They were made out of canvas, basically. So it looked like canvas, so they're kind of canvas covered. And then there's windows that are supposed to be cut out and put in. So the command module offers some challenges. I have a picture of the actual hatch. The inside of the hatch looked like this. Needless to say, all of this detail is not molded in on the model. This is not. There's a little bit of detail, though. And so I'm going to, paint it light blue, like it says, and then try to highlight some of the detail in silver paint. And then the window had this brown circle around it. So I'm not sure, after I cut out the circle and somehow attach it to the inside of the hatch, how that'll go. So the command module might be kind of an interesting thing to watch, because there'll just be some challenging things like putting the windows in, painting the detail on the hatch, and most importantly, the control panel, which has very, very light embossing on it, extremely light embossing of the controls, which do not match the real thing. It just doesn't. But I'm going to try to paint the control panel so that it won't look like the real thing. This is what it looked like. That's not going to happen. Okay. Not only because the control panel model doesn't match the control panel reality in terms of the embossing of the instruments, but at least I'm going to try to make some of the instruments on the control panel look sort of like the real thing did. Yep. That's the thing I'm going to try. E silver. So, yeah, there's nothing more I can do in the stream on the LEM like I was hoping to because of the disaster that happened here. The next disaster that can happen is that I will not have enough primer left in the can to prime this. And then I may end up just having to abandon it until I am able to get more paint. I'll just warn you that that is a possibility, that I very well may not have, there's not enough primer in the can to reprime the top and bottom of this thing. As you can tell, I'm not in a happy mood today. Let me just get some of this stuff out of the way, and let me just, I'm going to start pulling parts out, get the big box out, start rummaging through. It's always kind of fun to rummage through the box to see if I can find the pieces that are, you know, what color do they want me to paint the heat shield? No painting instructions for that. Maybe here up in front. No, that's really odd. They don't have a color designed for the outside of the heat shield. The very, very bottom. Okay. Now the whole capsule, this part, okay, and then the things that go on the top get painted kind of this pearlescent white, which is the same color I used for all the exterior of everything except for the lunar module. Okay, and it looks pretty nice. It's good color. But the very bottom is the heat shield. And I know from the real thing that wasn't painted the same bright white. So I might end up painting it a slightly off-white color. I'm not sure. Well, let me get a few things sort of out of the way. I'm going to keep moving this until I break it. I want to lose this. This is the platform that the astronauts walk out onto before coming down the ladder. I'm going to put this in the box. Oh, I know. This would actually be a useful thing to do. Now I'm going to talk about our dungeon tiles. Kind of a regular feature here, but I brought out some new things, some different things to show you. So you're familiar with this if you've watched any of the streams at all. These are the rough stone, but yet not quite washed dungeon tiles that we print on a 3D printer. Okay, and they haven't been washed, which means that they look kind of flat. Okay, and we put a gray wash on them like this. Not quite this color. This is a different base color. But when they put the dark gray wash on it, it makes it look a little bit more worn, kind of worn out. But yeah, and then they have the ball magnets in the bottoms so that you can rearrange them any way you want. Pretty cool. But we also have specialty tiles, some really cool specialty tiles. So if you're in the Fire Mage dungeon, okay, you can tell it's a Fire Mage because of the fire sigil on the wall, which a long time ago on this stream I painted. Okay, put all the different colors in there and then painted brass. Or, yeah, I think that's brass on the outside and that's copper. So it looks all fiery, but in the center of the dungeon is a cauldron. Okay, like that. And this one doesn't, but the real thing has a little magnet in the bottom of that hole. Okay. And then there's a flame, and the real thing has a little magnet at the bottom of that hole. And the fire mage says something like flame on, which is not very good, or incendio, or fire arise, or something, you know, some sort of magical fire invocation. And then you can take your fire flame and put it in the cauldron. And then you don't have to pretend that there's a fire there because there's a fire in the cauldron. Isn't that cool? So that's kind of one of the special features of one of our dungeons. And then this other one, this is a really cool tile. Okay. It looks like one of these, you know, except the color's different and it's washed, so it looks a little worn. It looks like just an ordinary one of these, but I'll just show it to you, even though they're different colors. Okay. So here you are walking, let's say it's a narrow hallway, a little narrow hallway. So you're walking down a narrow hallway. Walk, 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 and you just see, oh, look, there's a wall there. What could possibly go wrong, right? But this is a trap tile. And if you trigger the trap, instead of just saying, oh, you have triggered a trap, and because you want the visual to be there, especially if you're running a Dungeons and Dragons show like ours, right? You want there to be a visual. You trigger the trap. The DM turns this around, and look there. Look on the wall. There's a brass plate, and there's a magnet in it, and fire comes out because there's a magnet on that, and it holds on. But this one doesn't have one, so I can't show it to you, but I'll hold it so that, you know, when you're walking down the hallway, even as players, you look at it and say that, except for the color, which is just because it is, you just say that looks like any other wall, but you trigger the trap and you can actually see the trap. Flame. And, you know, maybe you're lucky and you back off in time, or maybe you're not lucky and you just take fire damage. But that's one of our special tiles, the trap tile. I also could like release a gas cloud, or maybe even a spear or something. So yeah, you can do that. You know, and it was fairly easy. You know, that's molded right in. That's molded right on. It's not attached. It's part of the tile itself. And so when this was painted, you paint up to it and then paint it, you know, brass or steel or whatever color you want it to be. So we have really cool specialty tiles, as well as the standard tiles that do this, come apart and go together very, very easily. So that was good. I used up some time there. In some ways, I just can't wait for this day to move on, because hopefully I'll salvage this this bit of the lunar module. I'm going to take this whole box of parts and set it in a place where it will probably break. I need a big area because the box of parts is really huge. Off camera again. That's how this is going. Okay. This is the model box. It's like 19 inches long. It's really big. And this is how it's supposed to look when it's done. This is an example of the model built by some sort of super master modeler who, you know, gets all of the seams out of the lem completely instead of 90% like I did, and whose exterior paint is flawless. And doesn't, and the orientation of all of the reaction control jets on the service and lunar module is perfect. And yeah, that's how on the side of the box it shows how it kind of comes apart. And somehow or other, there are people who can make that happen. They're just way more skilled than I am. I didn't do too badly, though. Like the detail in the top of the service module, I got that nailed. I did a really good job with that. The color, I couldn't get exactly that color, which isn't the color that it says on the box on the instructions. This is supposed to be more green than that. Anyway, yeah, and the service module actually does open up, and the interior does kind of look like that. So that came out okay. The command module is supposed to end up looking like this, okay? And the hatch comes off so you can see the astronauts sitting inside. They put a baffle or something around the helmets. I don't know, maybe I should try to do that. But anyway, inside here are the remaining parts that are not part of a model that I've been working on, the command module. I guess I'm going to start taking them out because I've got like 45 minutes to go yet. And rather than just ending early and going, oh, that's it. That's all for today. Yeah, let's start pulling the parts out. Why not? So this is the very base of the, good grief. I'm going to have to test to see how this works. Okay, so right off the bat, I see just mess, which is usually the case with these parts. So a couple of things is, for a reason that I don't understand, there's these circles. See that? If you can see it, a circle there, and a circle there, and there, and there. And there's circles are molded in. They're not part of anything. They're just like intentional flaws in the molding of the parts. So this is this part here. Okay. The control panels go around it, and the couches go over it. These are heating and cooling ducts, I'm guessing, and the couches go on. Oh, here's my hand. When these go in, they sit on here somehow, and if these parts show, if you can see them, I'm going to have to sand out those circles. So right off the bat, there's stuff that's just a mess. And then the control panels, these are the control panels. If you look at it, if I keep the light just right, you can see really, really shallow embossing. It's a raised edge where some of the controls are supposed to be. You know, if you look at the picture of the thing, it's supposed to be like rows of buttons and all sorts of stuff that are not detailed here. So this thing gets painted light blue, and then I'm going to do my best to paint in as much of the control panel detail as I possibly can. These are the side panels. There's supposed to be a whole bunch of buttons and circuit breakers and stuff on these as well. There aren't. There are circles, beautiful, raised, not supposed to be there at all circles. And so I'll work on those. And then this is as good as it gets in terms of controls. You can see there's a lot of little buttons and stuff that are embossed on there. And I will be making an effort, I hope successfully, in detailing some of those, because if one looks through the hatch, because the hatch comes off, or through the tiny little windows, should be able to see this. I'm guessing I'm wasting my time to a large extent in that you won't be able to see this control panel from the outside once the whole thing's put together. Guess I'll find out. And then this is the heat shield, the external heat shield, which does not have these little prongs on it. These little prongs are here so you can stand it up by itself if you just want to stand it up. So I guess I'll leave them on. And then this is the exterior of the command module. It's got these are going to get painted black. These little dimples are, in fact, reaction control jets. Okay. And then on the inside of these are windows. So when this is put together, it's supposed to be able to look, this hatch is detachable, sort of. It also has some hinge pins on it, so maybe it hinges. Should be able to look through these little windows, these tiny little windows, and the hatch. And the hatch, you know, if you move this around, you should be able to see the control panel pretty well. So spending an unfortunately large amount of time trying to make the instrument panel look like an instrument panel might be worthwhile. So those are the big pieces. Doesn't look like anything's missing there. There's this, there's that. The bottom of this I'm going to paint with that bright white. There's the three parts of the main control panel. Doing a parts inventory here, pretty exciting. I've got the 3 astronauts done. Here's this part. The hatch, I'll show you the hatch in a bit. The hatch is in here. The windows have to be cut out. Let's see. There's supposed to be 2 of these little tabs. I only see 1. This is that. The cone is there. This is there. So it looks like I've got everything except maybe one of those little tabs. I'm going to have to search. Oh, there it is. It never came off the tree. It's right there. Oh, and it's got a dimple, a circle dimple in it. They go on either side. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to spend a fair amount of time cleaning these parts up, as usual. So, what the heck? Let me start pulling them apart. Take this out. I'm going to start cutting them off the trees, basically. Basically. Why am I saying basically? It's an inapropos word. It's meaningless in this context. This is important. This is all scrap. There's lots of it. I didn't throw it away. I don't know why not. And I need a place to put these parts. So I'm going to get a blast from the past. You look at some old streams, some long time ago streams. This is the tray I used for tons and tons of the parts for the submarine. This is my parts tray, and I put them in there, paper towel on the bottom, and covered it off with the paper towel. I spent a lot of time working out of here, but I haven't been using it that much for this, for reasons unknown. So this is the nose cone. Gotta save that. This is one of those little side panels that has a dimple on it. So I'll be filing this down. This is the hatch. Remember I showed you the inside of the hatch? Well, this is the detail I get for this. So there's little bits of things that need to be painted silver. And of course, there's holes. There's these little circles. And they're not raised. They're in recessed. So I guess I'm going to have to try to fill them in and then fake something to make it look like they're supposed to be there. I don't know what else I can do. I'm going to cut off some of the smaller parts and put them in this container. Start with this one. This is the I really didn't need this, but it's a helpful thing. Special tool I bought, a tiny little micro saw to use to cut these off instead of trying to break them off, so that I don't end up breaking them off and creating a divot in the piece. At the moment, leaving a little bit of extra plastic on the piece because I can file and sand that off. If there were a divot, like if this broke off into the piece, then there'd be a hole there. Then it would be difficult to work with. This has so many pieces of flashing. It's really almost hard to tell what is supposed to be there and what isn't. Yuck. Okay, I'll set that in here. These are just pieces of scrap I will put in the box with the rest of the scrap. This piece is already off. I had to use this piece, the escape tower that some of you might have ever seen. The little prongs of the escape tower fit in these holes. One of them is marked black because the escape tower will only fit in one way. So if it's rotated in such a way, in a way other than the little black prong fits in the little black marked socket, it won't fit. So I marked that, and I hope the marking stays somehow. I'll put some paint way down in the inside, so that when the thing is put together and the escape tower sits up on top of the command module, it will fit. It's really weird. The command module which is where the 3 astronauts spend most of their time, is the smallest part of the entire module. The lunar module, which lands on the moon, 2 people go in there, is more spacious than this. So when Apollo 13 happened, and the service module blew up because one of the oxygen tanks ruptured, and they used the lunar module as their life raft, they called it. There weren't any seats in it. Okay, they didn't have really nice little benches like they did in the command module, but it was spacious enough to hold all of them, which was a good thing. So I had promised at the very beginning of this that there would be painting in some assembly, and that just never pay attention to what I think I'm going to be able to get done, because something happens that always ends up either taking more time or, in this case, just turned it into an unmitigated disaster, costing me the time, an entire stream. Basically, what I was hoping to get done today, I can't even start until Wednesday because of disaster. And I'm hoping that I have enough primer that either later today or tomorrow I can reprime the part that was disasterated. That's a real word. and that I can pick up where I had planned to leave off. I don't know if you can see that. This is the most detail there is on the entire control panel. And I'm going to really make my best effort at making this work. It goes, does it go? Since I've got it in my hand, I'm going to see if I can test fit it. It attaches to this in kind of a weird way. Then this kind of goes. Oh, I see. Okay. There's these little flanges on the back, and it goes, kind of attaches like this. The side panels of the control panel wrap around this, and then this side view here. It is not actually at all clear how that is supposed to go together. So besides being a painting challenge, it will be a how does this fit kind of challenge. So this part here is kind of interesting. The hatch to the lem goes right here. It's in the little container over here now. This hatch goes here, like that. Okay. And when one is practicing the lunar the lunar mission, okay, this is not cemented in. So these covers, the nose cone comes off almost right away. And then this fits this other thing here. It's over this. Pick them off. Let me look. You know, during the moon mission, and then this stays on. The lunar module attaches to this. You flip it around and attach, but later on, this comes off, and these are supposed to be the parachutes. Okay. That's what this is called, H. What color is that supposed to be? Light brown? I don't know. They're supposed to be the parachutes and the equipment that releases them. The parachutes are red and white, though, and not light brown. So maybe these are like shrouds over the parachutes. I'm not sure. And there's all sorts of lines and little detail on here that is not at all clear what it's supposed to be. You know, whether these lines here are some sort of hydraulic lines or the hatch, or whether they are like tether lines for the parachutes. I'm not sure. The instruction manual says just paint everything light brown, but then you lose all of this detail, which has been very carefully designed and molded in. This is one of the more detailed pieces on the entire model, and it's not clear what it is. 30. The drogue chute. No, that's number 28. The parachute recovery system. Okay. Yeah, these are supposed to be the parachutes. So it isn't the recovery. It's not the recover the parachutes. Parachute recovery system. It's not for recovering parachutes. It holds the recovery parachutes, the parachutes that slow the whole thing down. So I don't know. I'm going to look online and maybe I can get some sense of what colors these are supposed to be painted in detail to make it look like they're really the parachutes that are used to recover it. And this is the tunnel that goes through it. That is supposed to be a tunnel, even though it's blocked. And then this cover goes over the whole thing to make it like streamlined, right? It's over that, and then the lunar module attaches there. So that's how it's supposed to go. Anyway, yeah, highly detailed, very vaguely described piece of the command. And these little blade-like things that are very badly molded that go on the outside are scimitar antenna. Sort of command antenna. So anyway, there's some parts. Cover this up. I just bumped into it again. I know I'm going to bang it, and those little pieces will go flying and then disappear forever. Okay, at least I'm making some somewhat productive use of this remaining time in this stream. Having failed to accomplish 90, well, I did accomplish like 7% of what I was hoping to do today. I got the ladder and the platform painted silver. But everything else I didn't get done because of trying to make something look better, and it totally, completely backfired. Totally and completely. Went from, this will be an easy fix, I just need to sand out this rough spot and repaint it, and then the paint melted itself anyway, so I have to totally repaint the body of the descent stage of the lunar excursion module. Totally redo it. I'm curious about this. You don't mind if I try to do some test fitting, do you? Because I really don't know. I'm not sure how these things are supposed to go together. This goes like this. I know they have different numbers, but they can only go one way. It leaves a gap. This one goes on this side like that. Oh, okay. These parts are supposed to line up kind of seamlessly. They don't. They go edge to edge. Yeah, it looks like it's supposed to be edge to edge like that. Yeah, these are very poorly done. And it leaves a gap. And the gap will show. These edges are supposed to come together, and you can see already how they just don't fit, or not. They don't fit very well anyway. So that'll be a thing, getting them attached, and then I'm going to want to fill in some of the gaps before this gets painted. Oh, that's going to be hard. Okay, so this part goes together kind of like this. It's supposed to line up. Okay, and then it leaves gaps that I would like to fill in, but I'm not going to really be able to, because I need to paint the detail on these things before it's assembled, almost, especially this part here, because once these sides are in, getting down into that to do the detail is going to be pretty hard. This goes on like this, and then somehow this is supposed to go in. These little tabs, those tabs don't go anywhere. I totally fail to see how this fits together. Then there's nothing there for these to fit on. It looks like these little tabs here are supposed to go onto something, but if this goes down like this, I am baffled. I don't know how this is supposed to work. None of this lines up, especially given those tabs, which are intentional. Those aren't accidents. Those aren't like molding problems. It's supposed to hang down. And I see, once this is put together with the other thing in the back, like the picture does it, we'll start with the other side. So this is this piece here, like that, right? This is supposed to go, maybe. But if this goes on top like this, then this tab, this is supposed to somehow fit here, fit there. None of this works. I don't get it. I don't see. I mean, I can see this line, these lines here are supposed to be this part here. And then this is supposed to somehow sit on it. Well, I am unsure about how this is supposed to go, especially given that tab. Those are very intentional. Okay, then what's this all about? So it looks like this little tab thing fits into this notch. Kind of like that. It looks like maybe it's designed to do that. But then what are these for? They're just in the way. They hang out and look. Does it go over the edge like that? I don't know. So when it comes time to do the command module, okay, in the instrument panel, I am going to be baffled by how it's supposed to fit together. It really does confuse me. Cut this off a fair ways away from the edge, because this goes up into the edge way too far, and it'll be easier to file away pieces of plastic and sand it down. If there's a divot there, it'll be next to impossible to fill in. So later on, sometime in the future, assuming I don't get frustrated and just chuck this whole thing away, sometime in the future, I'll be spending more time than one would think filing and sanding down these pieces of plastic I'm leaving on the edge. I just find that it's safer for me to do that than it is to cut it off too close and then have just an indentation. There's enough undesirable indentations on this model as it is. So this is the piece that keeps them all alive. And eventually you get it painted white. And there's a little bit of detail on it, some panels that show some bits here, the exhaust for the control jets, those will get painted. And then those little ear-shaped antenna get put in there. Hi, Ole. Yes, I did. I tried both the white primer. This is the Vallejo model primer, and then this is from Lowe's. I have some gray primer that I use sometimes for, big pieces, but it covered and it didn't bubble up. So it was a good idea to test it. And then I tested the brush on paint that I'm going to be using for the nozzles, the rocket nozzle hold areas there. So that worked as well. So I really have no idea why it dissolved itself. I mean, why did it melt itself? I don't know. Because as I said earlier, when I painted it originally, I recoated, I turned it over and spray painted it, and it painted itself, and anyway. So, yeah, thank you. So I'm going to reprime it either later today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow, because, there's always other stuff to do, and it's a nice day to work outside today. It might have been. I don't know. I just have to make sure that before I work on this again, I'm going to make sure I clean it off well. I'm going to wipe it off. But I think I can salvage it now. I got the paint off of one part, and the other part, I'm just going to, now that I know I can safely prime it, I'm going to just prime it. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking off the pieces for the command module because I had time, and this I have to get done eventually anyway. This is the heat shield. It's supposed to be honeycombed. I'm kind of disappointed. Some parts of this model are just, I don't know. I don't know what the designers were thinking. Like the parachute section has huge detail on it that they just say paint over. It's the most detailed part of the entire model. And then the heat shield, they just cheated on the heat shield. Okay. It's just plain smooth plastic. And it isn't honeycombed like the real heat shield. And I can understand why they did this, but they put these little prongs on it. Those little prongs are not on the heat shield, but since it's round on the bottom, lets you stand it up. Okay. So I'm almost tempted to take those off so the model's a little bit more authentic, but there's lots of it that isn't authentic anyway. And yeah, it's probably okay to let the thing stand on its own. So there's that. I was messing around with the control panels, trying to figure out how they piece together, and I can't. Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense to wash them, and I did. I mean, I washed it before I primed, and I very carefully didn't touch it while I painted it. But probably what happened is when I was sanding it off, I messed it up. So I'll redo it again. So I'll be carefully washing it before I prime it, and then I'll paint it again. I got clever though. Every once in a while I think of something that's cobbled together. I always thought that was an interesting phrase, cobble it together. But then I remember that when we were young, it was kind of an insult to shoemakers, which was unfortunate because shoemaking is a highly skilled sort of thing, right? But we always called it cobbling together, and we laughed at the quality of shoemaking. Anyway, there's a hole in the bottom where the rocket nozzle goes, so I said to myself, I'm just not going to mess with trying to set it down and turning it over. I'm not going to take a chance anymore. I'm just going to hold it on a stick. I did this with the ascent module as well. I put it on a dowel that I rubber cemented onto it so I could hold it and spray paint it in all these different directions without setting it down. Yes, I have learned through mistakes. That's why this is a how-to show, because it's like, oh, one can make a mistake. Let me show you how. Right? I mean, there's been a number of how not to events. More than one how not to event in this stream. Anyway, I now have a lem on a stick. Lem on a stick here. And I'm going to reprime it, the bottoms and the tops. Like I said, I don't really care about the sides that much, which is good because the seams show, because that's going to get wrapped in the Mylar. And it's only this little tank or whatever it is that shows on the outside. Anyway, I'm going to do that tomorrow, and on Wednesday, hopefully this will look good, and then I'll be able to move on. No, you shouldn't do that, Ollie, because you don't make those mistakes. I should start mine by saying, I'm going to show you these mistakes so that when you make them, you'll recognize them. I don't know. So I'm going to call my stream, not too bad modeling on the cheap. Because, instead of a decent workbench, I've got a piece of cardboard and little ring cameras and stuff. Most expensive thing that I've ever bought, I think, is this little saw. That's an upside of editing, right? Instead of something if it goes completely bad, you can just say, never mind, and you can start over, and you just have a really nice little segue cut from one scene to the next. I just make a mess of things. So I'm glad I saved the command module for the end. The reason I saved the command module for the end was because I wanted to get the detail on the control panel, and that's going to take a lot of hyper detailed painting, I think. But the other reason I'm glad I saved it to the end is that I can't get the control panel to fit together. I was playing around with it, and I just have no idea how it's supposed to go. I'm going to test fit this too. I think these couches. Okay, well, I'm baffled again. There we go. Okay, there it is. Okay, this goes on like this. There's a helpful little tab on the bottom, so that when this goes on, and there's an unhelpful tab here. I don't know where that's supposed to fit because there's no. So that tab goes there, but I don't know what that is about. So this is the front. So the couches go like this. Parts are supposed to just fit together, right? So it just says these things are supposed to go in here, and they don't. It's really pretty cool having a bottle of paint explode. I've had paint, it feels like it exploded into my hands. Paint just seems to like jump out at me somehow. There's no guide for how this fits in. So the control panel doesn't fit together, and there's no way I can't figure out how it's supposed to go. These seats, you would think that there would be like a guide tab somewhere, and there's a tab here that looks like it's supposed to go somewhere. I'm just going to play around with these just a little bit because they're so opaque. There's too much plastic on these tabs for them to fit. Okay, like one of these. Okay, so you take one of these and it's got a plug in it, right? So instead of like just try to squeeze it out, and wow, that would be fun. Maybe you missed it, but I was painting a tiny little spot black, and it was just basically a touch-up on the rocket nozzle. So I decided I'm just going to open this up, right? I opened it up. Here I am. And then a little paint oozed up off the top, so I put the brush on it. And I had more than enough paint then, but for a reason unknown to me, it kept oozing out. It just sitting here, and it just kept oozing up off the edge. and I had already somehow gotten paint on one of my fingers from that it wasn't even close to. And I thought, well, I better wipe this off. So I got a paper towel, a big piece of paper towel, and I wiped it off. But the paint went through the paper towel because there was a lot of it, again, oozing out just to do it, I guess. And so it just, my hand got covered in paint, and all I wanted was one tiny little drop of paint. Oh no, oh no, oh my. Okay, well, I'll be looking forward to you telling me that you're recovering quickly, because foot surgery can be quite an ordeal. So I hope yours recovers very quickly. And thanks for joining in. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I know that listening to this can be a pain in and of itself. So I definitely want you to go take care of yourself. So hopefully I'll see you Wednesday, and hopefully you'll be feeling okay. Take care. Here I am fitting these parts together. Putting them in the base like this helps, because there's these big tabs that kind of go together, and it kind of holds it so that they kind of fit. They don't really fit. They just kind of fit. But I can see that it's theoretically possible to get these pieces in like this. But then I don't know how this is supposed to go. It's supposed to go in later, after this is all put together. The astronaut seats, I suppose, if this is all well cemented. They don't even sit. Okay, that's right. There's space. I actually forgot about this. There's space behind the seats. Well, do take care and don't injure yourself. File. Oh, that just sounds really awful. And you. So you walked 1,500 feet up a hill with a foot that required sawing off a piece of a bone. Okay, I'm impressed. That was pretty amazing. Now I'm really more impressed about that hike than before. Well done. And thank you for sharing that video. So I had no idea how this was supposed to go together, but now I see that I remember this now, that in the real Apollo there was space behind the seats, and I think they were actually supposed to be able to go back there and like take a nap or something. Although it looks, if you were claustrophobic, it's not what you'd want to do. So now that I'm kind of piecing these things together, let me get a tweezers, because there isn't any other way to do this. My fingers don't work well. But thank you for joining in, and I hope you can come back Wednesday and not be in too much pain. Okay, this is going to take a lot of work to clean this up, because they have all these little holes on it. Okay, but this goes in here like this, and it sits. I was wondering what these little openings were. It actually gets suspended. The seats are, well, it fell apart, but the seats are suspended like that. And then there's this opening underneath. And that's why they bothered putting the detail in, because when you're an astronaut, you're supposed to be able to float up and maybe even like go behind there where there's stuff stored. Wow. Okay. That's actually pretty cool. But it's also actually kind of a pain to assemble. So maybe while this is semi put together, I can figure out how this goes. go like this. Again, I don't know. This is supposed to be all cemented together before this goes in. Let's go on top. Okay. Well, what I thought before that these tabs would fit in here, that's not the case because it's all too far apart. Okay. I'm still baffled by this piece. See you. Really take care. Be careful not to injure yourself or re-injure yourself. Yep. I'm totally baffled about how this is supposed to fit. Kind of like this, I guess. I don't know why those tabs go underneath. Yeah, this is going to take... It looks like these are supposed to line up here and here, like that, but it's almost like one goes under and one goes over. Like that. I don't know. Well, I figured out how the seats go in, but I can't figure out how that goes on. And that's going to be interesting because this has to be highly detailed painted on the front, and that has to happen before it's assembled. And then I'll hold it with tweezers and scar it all up. But I'm definitely going to have to practice the assembly before I actually do it, because it just, I don't know. Well, I'm past time. I'm going to stop. Today was not a good day for relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons. Today was a really kind of bad day, a no good, very bad day. Why not? It was a Monday. And I almost ruined something, and I think I might be able to salvage it, but I'll find out. I'll find out later today or tomorrow. And then I'll get back here on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, I don't know. We'll see if everything goes okay. I'll pick up where I wanted to be today, which is the assembly of the descent stage of the lunar module. And if it doesn't, then I guess I'll start working on this. So in the meantime, say goodbye to this failure of a beast and hope that repriming it and repainting it will work. I'll be washing it down very carefully, letting it dry, priming it, let it dry, and then holding it and spray painting it at a decent distance, and ta-da, hopefully it'll work. Hopefully it'll be okay. See you Wednesday. Thanks for joining in.